This is an officer-involved shooting case. This originally came to us at about 4:25 p.m. today. Citizens reporting a male subject carrying a shotgun and acting strange, walking southbound on Cherry Street towards Stewart Avenue. So approximately 3 minutes later, when officers first responded and were attempting contact with him, there were shots exchanged. The initial information, again, this is just initial. I don't have anything solid yet, but I can just tell you that the initial information is the suspect was the initial shooter at us. He actually fired a shotgun. I don't know how many rounds just yet. He fired at least one shotgun round, maybe two, at one of the initial responding officers that was on the corner of Stewart Avenue at Cherry. So there were additional MPD officers that arrived with about the same time frame, and we believe that two officers fired from approximately 50 yards to the suspect, and the suspect then fell to the ground. He was moved up and secured. There was EMS and fire at the scene. At that point, he was pronounced dead at the scene. Major assault death investigation units always summoned in this kind of case. We are the initial responding and also the agency that's involved in the shooting, so we're not the case agent. The Oregon State Police is the case agent on this thing. We'll be running concert with them. This is the kind of case that is also, when the investigation is completed, it will be submitted to the district attorney's office, kind of case that goes before a grand jury. Senate Bill 111 is pretty consistent with that, and we follow that same protocol in Jackson County regarding officer-involved shootings. So I don't have next of kin notification yet for confirmation of that, so I can't release the name of the deceased at this time, but I will do that before I go home tonight, because that's one of the tasks that's being accomplished right now with the group that's investigating this case. So when the next of kin notification is done, then we will notify you of that too. We believe that it's the same subject that we were at a house about 2 hours earlier on our disturbance call as well on Chestnut Street. Again, I'm trying to confirm all that information, but we were at a disturbance call at about 2:58 p.m. In the 100 block of Chestnut Street, and we're investigating that at this time too, where there was information that there may have been some type of round fired and some type of disturbance at that address. Officers did make contact at that address and subsequently cleared. There were no arrests made at that time, and so you're talking about 2 hours later. We believe it's the same male subject that was at Chestnut Street is now walking down Cherry Street near Stewart with a shotgun. There's also an indication from the scene that he was in possession of more than just a shotgun. There's an indication there's at least one handgun, possibly another, that he was in possession with at the time. But that'll all be explained out in an actual written news release once I get confirmation on that. But that's just the initial information that we have. So it looks like he was well armed and obviously confronted us and actually shot at us before we returned fire. No officers were injured, and those officers will now be on paid administrative leave pending this investigation. And I'll entertain some questions if I can.
Did you know this? Did you have incidences with this suspect before today?
Well, again, I can't go into that because I can't give you his name and any other information until I do next of kin notification. But I can tell you that this subject's not a stranger to us. I can tell you that. I can't go into specifics on that, but the person that we're talking about that is deceased has had previous contacts.
How many shots were fired?
I don't know that for sure. I can just tell you that there were two officers that fired, as well as the deceased subject that fired at us first, but I can't tell you the exact count yet. And again, that's a lot of work that's going to be done out there. It's starting to get dark on us too, so we're going to be fighting darkness. And we've got, if you were out there, you could see we've got some streets blocked off and we got some stuff shut down. And so we're going to try and get to the most of it as we can tonight and free up that intersection and free up the roadway on Cherry Street and then go from there. We're going to know a little bit more after we do the examination here. Obviously, you're going to examine the weapons of these officers. There's a lot of work that's going to be done between now and midnight, and a lot more work that's going to begin tomorrow morning. So there's going to be obviously round count, weapons examinations, officer interviews, a lot of stuff that's going to happen.
Sorry. I was going to say, what was the reason behind the officers firing the shots? Why did they fire at the suspect?
Because he was shooting at a police officer, so they were defending another police officer from imminent serious physical injury or death, and so it's certainly justified in that cause.
So the deceased was shooting at one person and two separate people?
Not a person, but another policeman.
Another police officer?
Correct.
Two separate police officers shot?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the information we have right now, that he was shooting a weapon, we believe the shotgun, in a southerly direction, Cherry Street towards Stewart, and the officers that returned fire to him were shooting from Stewart behind him in kind of a southeasterly direction, I guess would be the best way to describe that.
Aside from firing that shot at the police officer, did the subject make any threats? Any verbal threats? Any signs?
I can't speak to that because we're not even close to that yet, as far as talking to folks and trying to find out what happened.
And was the firearm registered? Do we know that yet?
Which firearm?
The shotgun.
I have no
that the
idea. I have no
subject
idea.
had. Was anything registered to him?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's going to be way downstream.
Was the police officer who was being shot at hiding behind a Jeep?
I'm not sure what Jeep you're talking about, where that Jeep would have been located. The officer that was
Just
shot,
when the police officer who was being shot at.
the officer that was shot at was at the intersection of Stewart and Cherry, so that, I didn't see a Jeep down there.
Okay, it wasn't there.
He would have been next to his marked vehicle.
So he was at a disturbance call earlier that day around 2 o'clock, you said?
We were at a disturbance call about between 2 and 3 in the 100 block of Chestnut Street. We believe that same subject was there as well.
No arrests, though.
No arrest at that time, no.
Did you hear that there, did a minor call in about Chestnut Street, and did the police receive information that there might be weapons, like assault rifles, in the basement?
I don't know about any minor calling because I haven't looked at the CAD list on who called who, but we were called by a citizen, I believe a neighbor, on the first Chestnut call in reference to what he thought he heard was a shot that was fired, or a round that was fired, some kind of noise similar to a gunshot. So that's, and a disturbance of some sort at Chestnut. But as far as any other people and anybody that would have called in something, that's news to me.
What are you guys going to be doing tonight and into tomorrow?
Lots. I mean, like this is so early in this thing right now that we just got done with our first investigators meeting. There's going to be a half a dozen of those before this thing is even close to being completed. So they're starting from ground zero and moving forward on this thing, everything.
What can you say, like, what are officers going to be out there doing tonight in particular?
Well, it's a crime scene. They got to do an investigation. They're going to be talking to people, collecting evidence. They're going to be, that body is going to be removed. There's a deputy medical examiner here. There's 4 or 5 different agencies involved. There's a district attorney involved. This is a major investigation. We've taken the life of an individual. It doesn't get any more serious than that. So this is the MADDU team has been activated, major assault death investigation unit. I could speak for an hour about the things that are going to happen, but they're just starting right now, and it's going to go for days. This probably won't be presented to the grand jury for weeks. So these investigations take a long time. They take a lot of expertise. There's a lot of procedure. There's a lot of things that are going to happen. This is the starting gun just went off. That's what this is. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to be a long, long one.
Was the deceased a Medford resident?
He was. He's a Medford resident. The best I can tell you until we get next of kin notification, a 52-year-old male. That's the best I can do for you right now.
Was he a military veteran?
I'm not sure of that either. We will confirm all that stuff downstream. Again, at least in possession of multiple weapons, one of which the shotgun, we believe the shotgun was the actual weapon fired at our officer, but other weapons in his possession at the time, so.
You mean with him?
With him.
In a backpack or on his body?
I can't tell you where they're at on him. I can just tell you that there were at least 2 other firearms that were located on him at the time we were going to arrest him, but he was also being attended to medically, so at the
Was he
scene.
given CPR?
I can't tell you what the medical, both Mercy and Medford Fire are both there. So he was, and they corresponded with Rogue Regional Medical Center. In his condition, he was pronounced dead.
Did officers make contact with him at the Chester incident?
Chestnut?
Chestnut?
Yes.
Do you know if he threatened neighbors?
When or where? Which tape are you talking about?
The one before the shooting?
The one on Chestnut?
No, not the Chestnut one, but later, before the shooting, it sounded like a lot of, can you describe the situation as far as were there adults and kids and people out and about in the street when all this was?
Well, you were out there. I mean, there were, this is a residential area. There's people, he was actually shot in a church parking lot. That's where that van sits and where he was at, that's a church parking lot. So this is a residential neighborhood with people out and about. There's also vehicular traffic there. Stewart and Cherry's a pretty busy area. Not to mention across the street, it looks like there was some other type of gathering. There's a restaurant a little bit east of there. So it's certainly a busy area for both pedestrians and vehicles. And you're in a residential area as well. I'm sure there are people out. It was warm out. Doors are open. People are in their driveways. Garage doors are open. There's activity going on. I guarantee you there'll be no shortage of folks that we will find between now and tomorrow that would have seen him coming southbound on Cherry Street with his shotgun like that. That's enough to cause alarm, to say the least, because of from what we're hearing, the way he was acting and the fact that he's carrying that kind of firearm, it was causing alarm, and someone called us, obviously. And there'll be additional people that'll be identified just because it'll hit the news, it'll hit the paper, and other people are going to be aware of it, and they're going to be contacting us.
What streets are or were closed exactly in what vicinity? I saw
Stewart and Cherry.
Stewart and Cherry, and then between what I saw, like it closed between Columbus, and then what was the farthest, I guess, west side of Stewart that was closed as well?
I don't know about west of Stewart
Because Columbus would be on the east side of Stewart.
it was closed at Columbus and Stewart, but as far as the west side, I couldn't tell
I
you.
guess mostly how long of a strip it was. Okay.
I'd have to go back and look. I'm not sure what the west side. Can you give me help in the back of the room? What was the west?
I think we're closed just about 100 feet maybe.
West of Cherry.
West of Cherry. We're not closed at an intersection west of Cherry.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And then it was do we know the citizen who called it in? Was it a resident? Was it just a bypasser? Like, what did it?
I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
Do you know, did he have a knife on him and by any chance?
I don't know. Certainly, if he did have a knife, that wasn't our issue. The issue was a firearm, and he was shooting at us. So whether he had a knife or not, really not an issue with us, but we'll find out downstream. We're going to find out everything he has on him and all the conditions about what he was doing before, during, and immediately after. All that stuff's going to be part and parcel of this investigation. Like I said, it's going to go long term. I don't have answers to those. I'm not going to make statements, and we won't make statements about his intent. We won't make statements about his statements. That's all stuff that's going to be presented to a grand jury, and that's all stuff that's going to be heard downstream. Once the grand jury's done, there'll be a complete release that's prepared by the district attorney's office like they've done in previous officer-involved shootings, and it'll be a lengthy document that describes everything that was testified to.
Can you list the agencies who responded?
I can tell you the agencies that are currently working this case with us. MPD was the responding because it was in the city of Medford, but now, as far as the investigation is concerned, you got the Oregon State Police, which is the case agent. You're going to have the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. You're going to have the Central Point Police Department, the Ashland Police Department, and the District Attorney's Office, along with us. So.
What is it called again, the
Major Assault Death Investigation Unit. The acronym is MADU. Major Assault Death Investigation Unit. So MADIU. MADU.
What was the name of the church with you shot in a parking lot? Do you know the name of it?
I don't know that. I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't know. It's on the corner of Stewart and Cherry. It's on the southeast corner. Excuse me, it's on the northeast corner because it's a T intersection. It's on the northeast corner.
And do you think Stewart and Cherry will be closed all night then?
I wouldn't say all night, but it's going to probably at least until midnight before we open that back up. Probably Stewart and Cherry, you'll be able to go east and west. Whether you'll be able to go north on Cherry Street for a while is going to be a different story. North Cherry will probably be, that first section of Cherry, at least the first 2 blocks from Stewart northbound, probably going to be closed until tomorrow, just because there's some crime scene work that we got to attend to out there. So they're going to be out there for a while.
And I know you mentioned that 425 is around when the call came in. Do we know when these shots were fired?
428.
428. Okay. Right.
Approximately 3 minutes later.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
So you guys arrived on scene just like that, and he started shooting at you?
Mm-hmm.
So arrival was 4:25 and shots fired at 4:28?
The call was at 4:25, and then shots fired, at least our information from our folks, shots were fired at 4:28. So
By call, do you mean the 911 call? I don't understand quite exactly.
when it's dispatched to us at 4:25 that there's a citizen reporting a male with a shotgun walking southbound. So we're getting it at 4:25, and within 3 minutes, there weren't a shots fired scenario. So we weren't that.
Just we're getting information
We weren't
from
that,
dispatch.
right, we weren't that far away to begin with, because we were, and then, again, you have multiple folks responding, so. But dispatch is giving you updates to any kind of information that's coming in, any additional information. And then when officers put out information, it's going out to all the other officers too. So there's more than just the initial responding officer to this type of a call if it's involving a firearm, so.
Over the scanner, I heard a call for armor, something like that.
There was
Maybe an armored vehicle.
There was an armored vehicle that was used to approach him. So we have what's called a Lenco Bearcat. I'm sure you're familiar with it. The sheriff's office has one. We have one. That vehicle was used to approach him. Again, because of the weapon that he had and the fact that he had additional weapons, there was some additional precaution used to effect an arrest on him. So when they approached him, they did use an armored vehicle to approach him. And then they also approached on foot.
And then both the officers are on administrative leave.
Well, right now, there's 4 officers that are on administrative leave until we figure out who's who in this thing. So there are 4 officers involved in this. We believe only 2 officers were shooters in this case, but until we get a little more depth and grasp of what actually occurred and this investigation moves forward, all of them will be on administrative leave until we make additional determinations. So.
I'm good if you guys are good.
I'm good.
We good?
Anything you want to add?
No? Any other questions? We're like I said, I'll push the actual written release out a little bit, so it's going to take a while. There's some case numbers I need. There's some times and